The South African Union of Students has called off the national shutdown of universities with immediate effect. This follows engagements with various stakeholders. The union is now encouraging students to return to their respective campuses. For more on this, we're joined now by Misheck Mugabe, President of South African Union of Students. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Very positive news, moving in the right direction, absolutely. But let's just first find out, are all student unions and student representative bodies in unity? Are they speaking with the same voice on this decision to call off the national shutdown?
Yeah, thank you very much for having us as the South African Union of Students. We also want to greet your viewers of eNCA. The South African Union of Students works from a mandate from University SRCs. And I can tell you, we met on the 30th of March 2021, and we discussed developments regarding the shutdown. And remember, when we called for a shutdown, we were not happy about what was happening, where students were facing massive financial exclusion. We would see that more than 500,000 students were going to go home because the universities were saying you must pay your debts, you must clear your debts before you're allowed to register. So we're not happy. That's why we called the shutdown. But now we came back with a report to SRCs to say these are the developments since we started with the shutdown, and there was a unanimous agreement from all the 26 university SRCs that let's call off the shutdown because our students are now having access to universities.
Let's talk specifically about the changes with regards to NSFAS funding. What's changed?
Yeah, the problem is that there was a serious cut, of 7 billion from NSFAS. And when that cut happened, about all the first-time entering students were being told that they can't register because they did not have funding decision. NSFAS was saying we don't have funding decision for first years because of the austerity measures that led to budget cuts. So now, following the shutdown, the cabinet met. The minister was then able to reprioritize funding because of the pressure we're putting, and 7 billion is back now, and first-time entering students are now able to register. They are now getting NSFAS. They are now receiving their allowances. But on top of that, there were other challenges about NSFAS in relation to laptops, because we're not certain when are the students going to get laptops. But now we received a certain response that within 3 weeks from now, students will start receiving their laptops as promised, and we think that that is a good development that will assist us so that our students are able to kickstart their academic year. And from all these, our main agenda as student leadership is to ensure that as the academic year starts, there's no student who go hungry. As the academic year starts, there's no student who sleep outside because they don't have accommodation. As the academic year starts, we don't want any student who is going to be victimized by institutions of higher learning. But from where we are as we speak now, we are very sure and we are very satisfied that all our students are going to be looked after. However, it does not mean that all the problems are solved. Other problems are medium term, others are long term. We are following all the processes that have been put in place to ensure that we proceed with the discussion about the 13 billion student debt. It's still a headache for universities. It's still a headache for students. It is still an albatross for progress for many students. So we are still continuing with discussions. We are still discussing about free education. But in the meantime, we said let those discussions proceed while students are back in class so that we don't lose more academic time.
Misheck, let's talk about some of the progress before we delve into all those problems. I'm sure our viewers need some good news, and all the students out there definitely do. So financially excluded students, that had been a big problem with regard to registrations. In the past 2 weeks, we had seen some very encouraging responses from universities who had opened up registration despite financial historic debt from students. So that was good to hear. But what's changed now in terms of registration for the remaining number of students who had still not been able to register?
Yeah, no, what changed is that there is now a positive response from management. And the university managers, they surprised us this year, vice chancellors. Unlike last year, when we called for a shutdown, they started to call meetings with the SRCs that let's talk about these demands that were put forward by SAUS. Let's discuss a way forward. Let's reach concessions. And part of our argument was that UWC cleared all the students. If UWC can do it, why other universities are not doing it? And we started to see other universities following suit. They started to unblock students. They started to allow students to register. Undergraduate students, postgraduate students, students who are in the missing middle, they are now being unblocked by universities. There are now a small percentage of students now that is unregistered. We are committing that we will be following on that to ensure that all students register. Registration has been extended by 2 weeks. some of the universities, such as UNISA, extended registration up to the 30th of April. We are doing all that to ensure that our students access the system. So there have been a huge change because there are flexibilities that are happening. There are concessions that are happening to ensure that our students access the system.
Misheck, very quickly, before we let you go, how do we take this conversation forward in the immediate future to make sure that the momentum of this good progress isn't lost?
Yeah, what we are encouraging our students is that let us focus on the academic year now. Allow other battles to be fought by your leaders so that we don't lose a lot of academic time, because we are worried that if you continue to lose academic time and you don't perform, NSFAS will exclude you again the following year. They will say you do not perform well. So we are protecting our students. We say they must go back to classes. But what we need now is that Parliament must discuss about the student debt. It needs a serious discussion, the 13 billion student debt, because the fact that we are going back to classes does not mean that that problem is not there. It is true there. We are also calling upon the private sector to come on board to ensure that our students are able to be assisted to clear these debts. We are also calling upon our institutions to play a role, to come up with mechanisms that ensure that they generate funds and resources to assist our students on some of these issues. The question of fee-free education is still a question that is very, very important. We want progress about that. We want to ensure that that is realized in our lifetime. So the challenges are still there, as I indicated. But what we need now is that all stakeholders must put their heads together. There is no time to run away from the problem. Let us face it and see how we can resolve it so that the future of our students is secured.
Certainly very many complex discussions still to be had. Thank you very much for your contribution. Misheck Mugabe, President of South African Union of Students. Good news, national student shutdown has been called off.